Syracuse takes down #1 seed Indiana. They move on now to face Marquette with a chance to go to the Final Four. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort. We are previewing each and every game of this year's NCAA tournament. Thanks to our friends at UPS and the UPS Team Performance Index. And joining me now again on the phone, our college basketball writer Mike DeCourcy. And Mike, let's start with Syracuse because that was a hell of a performance against Indiana, both defensively and offensively. But start with the Orange defense. That zone was very effective and almost seemed like they got in Indiana's head.
Well, it's hard to play against that when you don't see it all the time. And it's the kind of thing that you play a certain way, a unique style, and your league is used to it, but other teams are not. And that tends to haunt the teams that are not in that circumstance. We talked, as a matter of fact, on Sunday night in Dayton, you and I, about the fact that Indiana very rarely has faced any sort of zone in conference play this season, and certainly nothing like what Syracuse does with the length they have, the quickness, and you could see it right away. 10 turnovers in the first 10 minutes, most of them caused just by poor execution against the zone. So it really made a huge difference for the Hoosiers, and they lost their opportunity to win a national championship.
They certainly did. And as far as Marquette goes, obviously they had two very difficult games. The first game they played, they really almost should have lost, but they've gotten through those now, and it was a very impressive performance today. So how does the matchup look from their point of view going up against Syracuse now?
Well, interestingly, they played earlier just once this season, and it was in Milwaukee at Marquette's home court, and it was only a 74-71 Marquette win, which is exactly what the odds makers will tell you is basically the margin that one gives for the home court advantage. So essentially they tied in their first game. So what we know is that they're very evenly matched. Marquette, again, has the advantage of having seen zone from Marquette before. Devontae Gardner played very well against the zone, which shows that, a big guy can score against the zone if you do it right. He came off the bench and scored 26 points in the first meeting, went to the line for 13 free throws. He was able to get into the zone, which means they were executing zone offense really well, because you can't enter the ball into the low post as directly as one does when one plays man-to-man, and you can get it right in there with an entry pass. That's almost impossible against any zone. Certainly it's impossible against Syracuse's. You have to move the basketball through the foul line and then get it down into the low post, and that's what Marquette was able to do the first time. And so I think it gives Marquette confidence that they can play against this, that they can succeed against it. But at the same time, when they played the first time, Syracuse was only just starting to get itself back together with James Sutherland in the lineup. And Sutherland was much better tonight, as he has been really for the last 3 or 4 games. When he first got back in, he was shooting a lot of shots, Tom. It was as if he was searching. He was trying to make up for every shot that he didn't get to take during those 7 or 8 games when he was suspended. This is a much more effective James Sutherland, and as a result, you're seeing a much more effective Syracuse team.
Absolutely. It's going to be fascinating. Any feeling about how this game goes?
Marquette's the lesser talented team. I think that Syracuse getting this far, they've gotten this far in the past and not gone on. I think it's time for Syracuse to make a Final Four. I think that they have the ability. We're seeing Michael Carter-Williams play with great confidence now. He was terrific against Indiana. I think we're going to see Syracuse get on to the Final Four. It was a tough draw. We talked about this again on the opening night, about what a tough draw it was for Indiana to have Syracuse as its 4 seed, and now we're seeing it. I think we're going to see the Orange move on to Atlanta and play for the national championship.
All right, we'll see what happens. Listen, Mike, thanks so much for your time, and obviously we'll be talking again.